excited. I have been waiting for weeks to host this discussion. We are incredibly passionate here at Invest Ottawa and Bayview Yards about founders, entrepreneurs, innovators, startups, scale-ups. Well, and that's what this next fireside chat is all about. It's a privilege to facilitate a discussion that will chart the journey of an autonomous vehicle company from startup to scale-up. This is going to be the story of Zoox. If you're passionate about AVs, CAVs, and everything in the smart mobility space, you're reading TechCrunch. Every global media outlet is covering this company. They're doing some incredibly innovative things. And that is exactly where our next fireside chat will go this morning. We're going to chart the journey of Zoox from startup to scale up and explore broader global investment trends in the smart mobility sector. Zoox has established a new purpose-built robotaxi. Since its inception in 2014, Zoox has combined artificial intelligence, robotics, vehicle design, sustainable energy to bring its vision of reinventing personal transportation to life, making the future safer, cleaner, and more enjoyable for everyone. Today, we will be joined by two Zoox leaders who will unveil the path of building a scaling autonomous driving company from inception to acquisition by Amazon in 2020. We're going to explore how the company has developed that purpose-built autonomous vehicle from the ground up, developments during the pandemic since joining forces with Amazon, and future milestones as the company continues to evolve. This includes how this firm is moving forward with testing on private and public roads as it strives to launch the first Zoox ride-hailing service. We're really passionate about testing and demonstration here at AreaX.O, so I can't wait for this discussion. I thought it would be exciting to open with a video that enables you all to experience Zoox. Samantha, thank you for queuing up this clip, generously provided by their PR team. Thank you so much. What a great introduction to today's fireside chat. It's now my great pleasure to welcome our two keynote speakers joining us live from Silicon Valley. Sasha Ostojic, Interim Vice President of Engineering and Advisory Board Member at Zoox, and an operating partner at Playground Global, a VC in the area, and Bruce Baumgartner, Vice President, Procurement and Strategic Partnerships with Zoox as well. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you. Good morning.
Thanks for having us. Yep.
I have had the pleasure of working with Sasha for at least 2 years. Sasha, you visited us here in Ottawa in 2019 for CAV Canada, had the chance to see AreaX.O. And Bruce, of course, the lead up to today, just some incredible storytelling that you shared with us. I'm very excited to have you bring to bear all of that inspiration and actionable insight to those that are gathered with us today. As we begin, perhaps you could introduce yourselves, including the role that you play with Zoox and how you first became engaged with the company. Bruce, why don't we start with you?
Sure, that sounds good. Yeah, thank you, Sonia. Well, first I want to say we really sincerely appreciate you thinking of us for the event. As Sonia said, my name is Bruce Baumgartner, and I lead our procurement and strategic partnerships organization, as well as our corporate quality and reliability teams here at Zoox. And I have been with the company now for just about 5.5 years, so joined in the first half of 2016. Again, great to be here. Thanks very much, Sasha.
Oh, I think you're on mute, Sasha. What would a virtual event be without that line? It's really the line of the
year. Only 2 years, and I haven't learned this yet. Yeah, so I've been involved with Zoox for the past 3+ years. In fact, I got engaged around the time Zoox was raising their Series B funding, and I was working with an investor out of Canada on technical due diligence, and that all went well. The Canadian investor invested, and I stayed on as an advisor with Zoox. And more recently, I took on the interim role of head of engineering to help Zoox scale the engineering team to the next phase.
Excellent. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. Bruce, I'd like to start with you. You joined Zoox in 2016. You've had the chance to experience and help influence its evolution over the last 5 years. To help set the context for our fireside chat today, could you share with us the vision of Zoox and describe the company's journey to date as it strives to realize your vision?
Yeah, absolutely. I can certainly give it a try. I think you set the stage, you set the context very well. So I think the audience hopefully has a good sense for what we're doing. I guess just briefly to reiterate, what Zoox is ultimately trying to achieve is think about basically replacing replacing the rideshare businesses of today with a vehicle that has been sort of rethought from the ground up. Specifically in dense urban environments. I think that the really the standout attribute of Zoox is the consistency of the company's vision and the overall strategy of that vision. So, as you said, I think the company was founded in the middle of 2014, and so we're about 7.5 years old, and we've really always been very crystal clear about exactly what it is that we want to do. We want to reinvent mobility in dense urban environments first and foremost. And that doesn't mean the technology cannot be applied in the future, certainly to other applications, but that specific application has been our laser focus. We believe very strongly in a better way of moving from A to B. One that combines the technology that we have at our fingertips today, the latest in robotics, the latest in artificial intelligence, industrial design, to bring that mobility as a service to customers when they need it, where they need it. I think that's really what we got right from the very start. And at the time, it was an extremely audacious mission to embark on. I think it's been referred to as sort of trying to hit 3 home runs in one, right? We're trying to build a brand new sort of electric OEM, and we're trying to build an AI business. And then at the same time, as we start to scale and go to market, we're trying to build a rideshare business. But I think bringing all of that together has been what has helped us get to this point at which we are, which is being able to leverage the skill sets that we have on the AI side of the house, as well as on the vehicle engineering side of the house, and really rethink the product from the very start and have that hardware software integration at our fingertips. And if you think about over the course of 2014 all the way through to 2021 today, the number of learnings that we've had as a company, the number of changes we've had to make on both the software and the hardware side, these are things that we've been able to do extraordinarily fast. We started, I think if you were to go to the Zoox website, you could kind of see a little bit of the journey, but we started with basically a glorified golf cart. And we operated that sort of initial robotaxi on a portion of the Stanford campus in Palo Alto, California. And over the course of the years, we've just sort of taken that vision and matured it. And I think the video just showcased sort of where we are today with our go-to-market intent vehicle, first of its kind to be testing and to be operating on private test tracks and private roads. And this is something that it's just been an incredible privilege to be a part of, and really excited to see what we can do with it coming in the future here.
Really exciting, and I would be remiss if I didn't invite you to come and try it out on our test facilities here that Sasha has visited there. So you can count on hearing from me about that after the panel.
We have done some testing in Canada. We actually do some testing in sort of an enclosed. We do have a partner there, so we're making our way.
It's encouraging and exciting to hear, and it's really a great launch point into my next question for Sasha. So I know you engaged with Zoox in 2018 as a member of the advisory board. Now you're stepping in to serve as the vice president of engineering. How would you describe the problem that Zoox is really focused on solving? That could be from either a technological or a business perspective, or both.
Yeah, I mean, Bruce touched on a lot of important points in terms of the vision, but when you look at the technology itself and how Zoox is different and how audacious our mission is, the way I like to describe it at a high level when I start explaining Zoox, I don't know if you had in Canada those ads that say, I'm a PC, I'm a Mac. Well, we are the Mac of the autonomous vehicle industry. We are entirely fully integrated. The 3 home runs that Bruce talked about. We own the design and the manufacturing of the vehicle. We built this entire software stack, and we own the entire rider experience and the rideshare business as a whole, including the operational aspects. So it's audacious, but we also feel that that's the only way to deliver a unified experience that's safe, secure, and a pleasure to use. No disrespect to any other approach, because none of us have solved the problem yet, but we are really firm in our belief that our mission is the way to go. We'll probably get into later on in the particular technical and safety aspects, but we were innovating in design, in safety, in security, on the software AI side. And, since robotaxi business doesn't exist yet, we're innovating on the operational fleet management and deployment side as well.
I think we can unpack around this.
Yeah.
Perhaps you could provide a description of the actual purpose-built AV and how it works. There's questions, I'm certain, about the level of autonomy that you've currently achieved. What could you share with us on that?
Yeah, so I can't speak directly to what level we've achieved yet, but what's publicly, the video you showed, and we have other videos. I welcome everybody to look for on our website and on YouTube. We revealed our vehicle in San Francisco, and there's a video of that with our vehicle driving around the streets, Nob Hill area of San Francisco. And it obviously took a lot of work to get there. It's, when we think of all the technology, you have to think about the vehicle first, because it's a purpose-built autonomous vehicle. So some of the aspects to talk about there is basically the carriage, the carriage shape, because it's built around the riders and the rider experience and the safety of each individual rider in the entire vehicle. I don't know how many of you are aware, but for example, safety criteria for most passenger vehicles sold in North America only really apply or need to be certified for the front seat passengers. Well, we don't have a front seat and a back seat. Everybody is equally treated in our vehicle. Our vehicle has independent steering and suspension and independent motors on each wheel. Now, each wheel has full steering range. That's very unusual, but it's extremely important in a dense urban environment for tight spaces going in and out. Another interesting thing about a vehicle, it's bi-directional. There is no front or back. There is no forward and reverse. We can basically park into a parking space and get out and just keep going, as if that was the front of the car. So all these are just truly innovative things that we're noticing a lot of actually our competitors and our other industry moving towards. But for us, that has always been the mission. Purpose-built vehicle with safety, security, and experience all around. So, happy to go deeper, but I'll stop there.
And your website, as you noted, has some incredible video footage. There's some marvelous learning opportunities if you are looking to do that deep dive on what Zoox has created. I'd like to ask you a follow-up question, Sasha, because you truly wear 2 hats. I know that you're an operating partner with Playground Global, a VC that really focuses on those incredible intersections of technology, different sectors, and points of convergence. Within your role, and when you think back on some of your previous roles with companies like Cruise, which I know was acquired by GM, what do you think it is that makes Zoox truly unique when you look across all the different types of innovation that you see in the Valley?
Well, what makes Zoox truly unique is just the originality of the vision back in 2014, and then sticking to that vision and being, in a way, proven right that that this is the way to go. Because if you think about, how safe a robotaxi has to be and secure and trusted, the only way to solve that is to have a fully integrated system. Because the real-time aspect of driving, in San Francisco, you go to a busy corner downtown and you will have dozens of pedestrians at each corner milling around. And what our vehicle has to do is in real time track every single pedestrian and predict some number of seconds into the future what each pedestrian will do. So the latency from sensor input to actual actuation, steering, braking, acceleration is like measured in milliseconds. So if you put a solution together from partners and ecosystem and so forth, it's really, really hard to achieve that level of responsiveness. So what I'm seeing in the ecosystem basically is there is a bifurcation among those who are building the entire solution, because that takes billions of dollars to actually bring this out. And it is a $1 trillion market opportunity. Therefore, only a few players are capable of sustaining that level of investment and are motivated to stick with it until it's launched. So that's, companies like Amazon, or Cruise is backed by GM, SoftBank, Honda. Then there's Waymo backed by Google and others. And then there is everybody else who is looking at more specific domains like trucking or campuses or private roads or malls or retirement communities and so forth. And then even more focused, like that do just mining or warehouses or construction sites and things like that. So opportunities for investors are across all of those, just depends on the level of ambition, how big the checks are, and how good the teams are.
This concluded a fireside chat earlier on moonshots, and this could not be more appropriate and an incredible segue from that discussion. You have both been involved in the scale-up of Zoox in different ways. I would love to hear from each of you on just insight on the key inflection points of growth that have been encountered in the journey along the way over the last few years for Zoox. Could be surprises, successes, lessons learned. We have lots of founders and entrepreneurs that are joining us today. Would love to hear from you on those inflection points. Bruce, why don't we start with you?
Sure. I think that one success that the company had certainly early on was getting just incredible people. And I think, as I mentioned earlier, as Sasha has reiterated, I think the company's vision for people who came in the early days in 2014, 15, 16, and spoke with the founders and really understood what the company was trying to do, and had some understanding of the possibilities of the technologies, the sensing technologies, the rapidly improving computing technologies and controls technologies. There was just a sense of that's the right thing to do. And I think we were extremely fortunate in the early days at Zoox to get just some incredible people. We've had, really a team that has, I think if you look across the industry, we've had a pretty small team throughout the course of the company's history relative to some of the other teams in the industry. And what we've accomplished with that team is, I think, just phenomenal. It really is incredible. And so that I would consider perhaps our biggest success to date. I would touch on maybe one surprise for me personally coming over. I worked at a very large technology company also in the Bay Area before I joined Zoox. And as a venture-backed startup with this audacious mission, as I came across with my initial sort of purpose of the company of thinking about the vehicle itself, thinking about the robot supply chain, how would we start to sort of map out what it was we wanted to build and how we would go about building it. What would we do ourselves? What would we look to partners to do? Doing that at a sort of no-name startup at the time that doesn't have the brand name, that doesn't have the cachet and the obvious sort of proven market, the proven technology that has several risks, right? Capital risk. That was a very different thing for us. And so I think we didn't have a lobby full of vendors that were calling on us to make sure that every project that was ongoing was going well and pitching us on new business and showing us new roadmaps and really sort of clamoring for an opportunity to work with us. It's a very real challenge to go and sort of build a supply chain for a vehicle by itself, let alone all of the other things we had to do. And so you really have to, I think, I think I came in probably a little bit naive in terms of sort of the experiences I'd had and sort of how we would go about doing things. And maybe surprise is a little bit the wrong word, but it was definitely a lesson learned for sure.
Yeah.
Sasha, what about you?
Yeah. So I can think of three very interesting and specific inflection points, along the journey of Zoox. So when I was first asked to help with the due diligence at Zoox, Zoox was kind of in stealth mode. Very little information was known about Zoox, what was going on there. there was no publicity, so there was buzz in the industry that it's not real, that it's some, mystic stuff that's happening, but there's no way they know what they're doing. And in fact, there's this famous, well-known automotive blog that wrote about Zoox and called it, excuse my French here, vaporware horseshit. That was literally written in a blog by one of the most popular automotive blogs on the internet. So we kind of said, wow, that's pretty cool that people think this is vaporware horseshit. So we named our vehicles VH1, VH2, VH3. So it's vaporware horseshit with the different generations. We are now at VH6. We started with the glorified golf cart. That was, I think, VH1. So the vaporware is improving and now actually driving people everywhere and very real, passing crash tests, passing automotive certification requirements, and soon we'll be on public roads. So we're, that inflection point of being challenged by, you really don't know what you're doing to actually doing it, demonstrating and getting to this point is just mind blowing to me. It gives me goosebumps when I see that video you showed from how far we came and how underestimated we were, starting out. That's one. Two, kind of related, was revealing our vehicle publicly in San Francisco. That was a huge moment of pride for all these incredible employees who worked diligently, heads down, with not much publicity until that point, people not believing, and then showing it, driving it around on real streets. It was just incredible, to be able to do that. And then it's the acquisition by Amazon. This is obviously a very capital intensive business. There's a lot of R&D. I liken it to the space program from the 50s and 60s. We don't know how to land on the moon, but we know we're going to get there. And we know how, what the steps are, launch a rocket into the stratosphere, orbit the Earth, orbit the moon, then land on the moon, where we're kind of following those steps with how we're developing our vehicle, all the steps we need to get through in order to launch the service. So the acquisition by Amazon was like now total validation by a very impactful company with deep pockets too, and very committed for the long term to building a multi-$100 billion business, because the transportation market is, about $1 trillion by all estimates, not just robotaxis, but then all the areas you can expand into. So that's stuff that kind of keeps me motivated and wanting to get to that next, rocket launch that we have to do along our journey.
I love the authenticity of the fireside chats we host, and it doesn't get any more real than an acquisition by Amazon. So I'm certain they are very grateful for their investment in VH6. And that's a great launch point for my next question for Bruce. I know that you were playing a very significant role in the acquisition by Amazon. I would love to hear from you how you think that acquisition has really influenced the journey of Zoox and where it's headed to from here.
Yeah, great question. I would start by saying I think that partnerships for the company have been really critical across the board, right? There are areas where we've always known we had to innovate and build something. And then there are areas where we were, I think the superior path for us to take was to leverage often what is decades or the better part of a century of experience from various partners across different lines of business. Maybe the supply chain, for example, on the vehicle is a great one, right? We can go out there. We don't necessarily have to reinvent some of the engineering capacity, some of the engineering capabilities and the industrialization capacity that exists out there. It was really in the early stage of the business, relying on those partners. It helped us. I think it helped us accelerate. I think it helped us focus. And coming to sort of what I would say is the most important partnership that the company has to date, the Amazon acquisition, which was finalized just in, I guess, August of 2020. It's really been tremendous for the company. It's just a phenomenally long-term thinking company, which I think people understand about Amazon, right? They place these large bets. And the company has been just incredibly patient about what it's been trying to achieve ever since its inception. And that they take that same view on basically all of the different things that they're looking to do that really are going to, for them, move the top line in a meaningful way, right? And they can see this industry, as I think Sasha mentioned earlier, this is a $1 trillion market opportunity. At some estimates, it's a multi-trillion-dollar market opportunity over time. And that's the kind of thing that Amazon is looking for if they're looking to grow. And this, the support that we've had from them, the operational muscle that they have, the commitment to this technology and what it can do, not only certainly as a robotaxi business, but I mean, we can start to think even further out in the future. And like I said, the power of this technology, that there are potentially multiple applications for it down the road, right? Like we are very, very laser focused on cities and robotaxi, moving people from point to point and really reinventing dense urban mobility. And their support of that singular mission initially has been incredible. They completely get that. But you can also start to at least think about what are some other things that we could do with the technology. And Amazon's reach, I think, not just in North America, but also globally, the support that they can offer in terms of customer acquisition, some of the technologies that they're developing in-house that you could see coming across into a robotaxi business. If you think about voice recognition and all sorts of things that we can think about partnering with them on. It's really just been a tremendous, almost year and a half now since the relationship really got off. And I think it's really one of the things I would say is I think the company has sort of transitioned after the acquisition. It was a bit of an inflection point for folks to think about kind of moving out of that R&D phase that the company had been in at the time for roughly 6 years. Moving out of that R&D phase into how do we launch this? How do we sort of tighten down, get a bit more rigorous, measure everything that we're doing, and really plot the chart to or plot the map out to a launch, to a commercial scale. And I think Amazon's support there has been and will continue to be tremendous.
That's an incredibly exciting phase. And of course, as I know, you're looking forward to that commercial launch, that safety is really your guiding North Star, and it's essential for Zoox. I was impressed to learn that your company has a Chief Safety Innovation Officer, more than 100 safety innovations built right into that purpose-built AV. Sasha, given your current engineering role, perhaps you could share a little bit about Zoox's approach to safety.
Oh, yeah. Safety permeates the entire organization. It's not just the vehicle. It's how we do the software, how we test the software, what processes we have internally, what operational aspects we have, how we test on public roads. I mean, so it starts with every microcontroller and wheels up to, driving on the streets and how seriously we take our operational professionalism and attitude. So the vehicle itself, because it's purpose-built, it has, like you mentioned, about 100 individual innovations within the vehicle itself. I can mention just a few of those. For example, we have sensors at each of the four corners. Each one of those sensor pods has a 270-degree field of view, but the vehicle itself is 360 with redundancy at every step of the way. This is a totally fail-safe robot. Braking and actuation, like there are 3 levels of redundancy there. So 2 is not enough when we're talking about my criteria. Would I put my children in this car? So for me to be that confident, we actually have to build a vehicle that will pass not only some tests imposed by government entities, but our emotional and our personal commitment and safety level that we feel like this can really drive people for many years to come. Other things, our battery pack is huge. It's one of the biggest among the vehicles that are currently being produced. But even that, we split into 2 pieces. So if one battery fails, we can switch over to the other. The mission doesn't stop. We can bring the vehicle to full safety. But even if both big battery packs fail, we still have 2 12-volt batteries, to bring the vehicle to a safe stop. So we've thought about every single possibility of failures in hardware in order to make sure that nobody gets hurt and we can always bring people to safety. Inside the vehicle, we mentioned, we have this carriage seating arrangement, 2 and 2 facing each other. Every seat in the car will achieve 5-star NCAP rating. Right now, commercial vehicles, only have to achieve 5-star or, are rated for front passengers. So to achieve this, we had to invent an entirely new way to do airbags. We have this a horseshoe airbag system that wraps around the passenger, each passenger individually to protect them. Plus, it's side airbags, upper pillars, lower pillars. Like the airbag system is fascinating. We had to even rethink seatbelts. They look like any other seatbelt, but we have a camera inside the cabin that actually can detect certain patterns and sensors inside the seatbelt itself to make sure they're plugged in properly. Yes, just detecting that the clip is in, well, every car does that, but we go beyond, and actually the material we use is detected by the camera to ensure the level of safety necessary for each passenger. The seat belts tighten based on the motion of the vehicle and the forces that passengers are exposed to. And I can go on and on. It's just like, 100 things went into the vehicle, from redundancy to safety to comfort to just the feeling of being secure. We even thought about safety of people outside our vehicle. Because, robotaxis, as safe as we're going to be, we do realize we will be hit by other actors. As long as there are humans driving around us, we cannot control them. So, we will be potentially rear-ended, side-swiped, all those things. Or passengers, bikes, motorcycles might run into us. So even we rethought the materials and the shapes outside our vehicles to minimize impact on people, for example, if ever a collision happened like that. We rethought how we signal our intent to pedestrians around us through acoustics and lighting that doesn't exist on passenger cars. So that's just the hardware side. Software side, we applied aeronautics principles to safety design and certifications, to the automotive industry, because we, again, have to surpass everything humans can do in a vehicle with our AI driver, as we call our software stack. How we develop the software, what processes we use to make sure when code is changed and checked in, how do we validate the safety at check-in rather than on the road? Then the fleet management and training of people who actually work around our vehicles, that takes like 30 days of special training, not some, contractors that come and go. No, even those people have to be fully trained how to operate the vehicles, because we are on public roads. We have to earn the public's trust and be treated as somebody who is adding value rather than risk to the urban areas. I'm sure I forgot a few things, but 100 is a lot to go through.
Incredible. And there's so much to unpack there. My imagination is buzzing. Testing and validation is something you raised. And I know there's some incredibly high profile pilot tests that you've done in different major US cities. Perhaps you can just touch on, because of course we're very passionate here at AirX.O about testing, validation, and demonstration. Could you describe some of the most exciting learnings from the pilots that you've been conducting and rolling out, most of which have been during the pandemic, I think?
Yeah, Bruce, why don't you start? Mute.
Had to do it. Yes. So one thing I just wanted to add to what Sasha was saying is we also just sort of at a high level understand that the opportunity to set a different bar through all of the innovations that Sasha was just going through, and yes, there are more. That is the opportunity to really, through innovation, showcase what is possible. And then you basically bring the entire industry in the future up to that bar. And I think that's it's not just about what Zoox is trying to do. It's about what we're trying to do for the entire industry to make sure that our roads are safer across the board. So going back to testing and validation in your question, so there are a variety of different tests that we have to go through at Zoox, right? We have again, going back to just sort of more of a traditional vehicle. There are certain things we have to do in order to test and validate the vehicle hardware itself. And now that we have this go-to-market intent vehicle, which we've built multiple prototype batches of, we are out on multiple test tracks. I mentioned having come to Canada, which is something we're probably likely to do here again in the near future. Crash tests, right? We're already crashing the vehicle. We're out doing durability testing. We're on high-speed loops. We're going over sort of, rough terrain and hills. And so we're putting the vehicle in all of the systems and subsystems through its paces, and we have a ways to go there. But we're doing that design validation testing now. We also have a level 3 fleet. So our level three fleet is, I think, what some people might be familiar with when you see the retrofit Toyota Highlanders running around. That's not Zoox's product, but that is a testing tool. And so we use that testing tool to drive around different cities. We've been in San Francisco now for, I think, about 3.5 years. We've been driving in San Francisco. We're now driving in Las Vegas. I think that's something that folks may have seen as well. We're now deployed in Seattle. We drive around sort of the local area where our headquarters office is in Menlo Park, and some of the surrounding areas in the valley there. And we'll continue to expand and look for new challenges as we're looking to validate the software and the sense and compute suite that's on that L3, which is designed to basically mirror as much as possible that go-to-market intent vehicle. There are some minor constraints given the form factor of a Highlander vis-a-vis what it is we're building from the ground up. But ideally, you want to think about the L3 being a complete stand-in for our go-to-market intent vehicle. And if you were to kind of make the Highlander disappear sort of from within, with sort of looking at it from the side, and kind of replace it with the go-to-market intent vehicle that we're building, you would basically have the sensors and the computers and the controllers kind of all in that exact same spot, right? So your eyes and your ears, so to speak, as we're replacing the driver, they're in that exact spot, and that orientation is understood, and that lets the development continue to accelerate as fast as possible. And then the last thing I would say, and maybe Sasha and I have actually been talking about testing and validation recently over the course of the past week or two at Zoox. We're trying to make sure that what we're doing is going to continue to help us accelerate and scale from a test and validation perspective, and particularly on the software and safety side, where we're trying to not only validate just how competent and capable the software is, but also how safe and reliable the software is. We have to think about all of the different features that we might encounter and all of the different environments that we might encounter, not just in San Francisco or Las Vegas or Seattle, but you just kind of keep adding cities to that list. And you can't just go and build replicas of cities out in deserts and put a fence around them and then sort of drive around for millions and billions of miles until we've validated it. So what are some other ways that we can think about scaling that test and validation capability, perhaps through simulation? And simulation is a huge piece of what we do. And what are some of the unique ways that we can use simulation and some of the tools that the team that Sasha's leading has built over the course of time? How do we continue to advance those tools to make sure that perhaps we can build virtual test worlds, right? And we can think about, okay, now I'm going to New York City, now I'm going to Miami, now I'm going to Paris, now I'm going to London. How do I start to test some of the unique features that I'm seeing, not just again in North America, but internationally, and make sure that I can run the vehicle and run the software and the sense and compute suite through its paces, and really get the confidence that we absolutely must have before we're willing to put a vehicle in any environment where there are, as Sasha said, other vehicles, pedestrians, cyclists. And so that's a little bit of sort of how we're going about it. So lots of testing and validation work has been done, some traditional, some a little bit more sort of innovative, and then there's a lot more to come. Sasha, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Well, yeah. So I think I like how you focused. Bruce talked about simulation. That's huge because nobody can drive billions of miles to validate anything, especially as software is live, keeps changing all the time. We cannot test in the real world the software, for months and months to feel it safe. But then there's also structure testing and on the road testing. The structure testing kind of maps to Area X.0, and the types of test tracks that have urban features and environments in a very safe and controlled environment where we can do things like repetitive testing and compare one version of software or one version of the service to another and learn more. Areas that have the right networking and support infrastructure. So those really become important as we scale our fleet. And then there's on-road testing. So all of those are important. And none of them can be really, skipped in this process.
I'm excited about so many facets of this discussion, and so is our audience. So I'm going to squeeze in a couple of questions before we slip away for lunch. One question: what are the major roadblocks to getting your platform out and being used by the public on a large scale? Bruce, you started to touch on this, I know, in some of your responses following the acquisition to Amazon as you're looking forward. Anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I think it really comes down to wanting to have the level of assurance that gives us the confidence that we believe is necessary in order to start to deploy the technology, not only at a commercially viable scale, but also first and foremost in a way that gives us the sort of the safety innovations that we're looking for, the improvement to the collisions, the injuries, the fatalities that happen every year. Like we want to sort of raise the bar on all of that, right? And we have to take the time to really gain the confidence that we can do that, and that we know for sure that we are doing that before we start to put these vehicles, the go-to-market intent vehicles, on public roads, interacting with all of the other elements or agents in any given environment. And I wouldn't call it so much a roadblock. It's part of the journey, right? Going from 99% assurance, as I'm sure your audience is very familiar with, going from that sort of 99% sure to 99.9 to 99.99999. It really takes a lot of time to do that, right? And you have to make sure that you've thought of every scenario, you've tested every scenario, whether it's in simulation or in real world, and it's a journey. And I think that internally, what the audience and what the public doesn't see is we have basically mapped out across sort of dozens of smaller and larger milestones over the course of the journey exactly where we need to be on our path, and exactly what needs to be true in terms of software sophistication and safety and assurance, to make sure that we are on track. And that's what we've been doing, and that's what we are doing, which is exciting. But it will take time for us to get there. And again, I wouldn't, the other thing I would say is that I wouldn't call it a roadblock, but we are building a ground up vehicle. It's a first of its kind. It's an incredibly sophisticated machine. There's lots going on in this vehicle that you're not going to find on the lot at the Ford dealer or the Toyota dealer. It is a new kind of vehicle. So it's not a car, it's a robot. And we have work yet to do to really, gain the confidence in the vehicle stability and the vehicle's validation. And so that's also kind of in parallel and in concert with the work we're doing on the software side. That is another piece of the puzzle that we continue to work toward and really want to put together, because at the end of the day, what we care about is the customer, right? All of this work that goes in for 4 years, 6 years, 8 years, 10 years, everything we're doing needs to be completely opaque to the customer. All the customer cares about at the end of the day. Oh, my apologies. All the customer cares about at the end of the day, from our perspective, is that we get them safely, quickly from point A to point B in a way that they're looking for, right? In a timely way. And everything we've done kind of leading up to that point should be opaque. They should care not at all about it. And for us to be able to do that, it's just it's a journey, and it's a long road, and it takes quite a bit of time in terms of testing, validation, and engineering work.
I love that focus on the safe rider experience. You're really doing something very, very novel, and I'm very cognizant of time and that there is lunch waiting for everyone who's joining us today. As we conclude and draw our fireside chat to a close, perhaps you could each share one thing that really excites you when you look forward about the future of Zoox, whether it's an upcoming development, milestone, or just where you believe the company is headed and the kind of impact it's going to have.
Sasha, you want to go ahead?
Sure. I mean, it's hard not to be excited, what we are doing, when I see these videos all the time, we play them at our all hands, and every time, gives me goosebumps, the level of achievement and the progression, and we have this roadmap and milestones that we have to achieve. And each new milestone is an incremental step, like, drive this vehicle for 100 meters and stop, and it's like, wow, we did it. And now make a right turn. Wow, we did it. Now drive with a remote controller. Wow, we did it. Now remove the remote controller, let it go all by itself. Wow, we did it. And just watching every step, because if we're focused just on the end goal, launching the service, I don't know when that is exactly. We have a plan, and it's some years away, but the incremental steps are what gives me joy and excitement, because that's measurable, visible, and energizes every engineer and every employee of Zoox, because you feel it. We're building something you can sit in, you can feel. It's not some software as a service or a dating app or a social networking thing that, it's I'm going to sit in this, have the press a button and say, wow, I worked on that button, or wow, I participated in the design of that UI element or something, or wow, this left turn was so well executed. I remember when we were discussing how hard that was, and look at us now, we do it like without thinking. It's just, gets us there. So no shortage of excitement, trust me.
Said that your children would sit with you in it. That speaks volumes. You're not going to put your most precious treasures in anything that you're not confident in. Bruce, what excites you most?
Yeah, I mean, there are so many things. I don't know if it's at the very top of the list, but I would say I think what excites me the most is sort of the unknown. I very much like what Sasha said, and I think that what has been true for 5.5 years of the company, and I think what will continue to be true for the next 5.5 years and beyond, not only for the company but for the industry, is we'll continue to tackle unknown strategic issues, unknown tactical issues, and then ultimately, as the technology does roll out, I think the myriad opportunities that exist that we haven't even considered yet, the ways that it will transform what people do, the way people live, the way people get around, different industries that will pop up around that, opportunities for entrepreneurs to step into new gaps and solve new problems. Just sort of, the transformation that's coming that I think people try to think about and try to predict, but probably are failing to do so accurately. I think that unknown is what's so exciting for me, because I think the power of this technology is just so transformative.
Thank you both so much. What a privilege it has been to conduct this interview today. Sasha and Bruce, thank you for taking the time away from Zoox to join us and share all of your inspiration and actionable insight with our community. We, of course, would love to welcome you to Canada's capital to meet the members of our community that are here. And I sincerely hope we have the opportunity to do that at Area X.0. Thank you both very, very much for your time today.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sonia. Thank you, Invest Ottawa, CAV Canada. It's always a pleasure.
Right back at you. Thank you so much. And we are now about to head into our lunch break. What an incredible morning. I am so inspired. I am just bursting with so much that I would love to take action on. I hope you feel that call to action with me. In our short break, of course, we do invite you to network both online in our digital online exhibition, and here for those of you at Bayview Yards. In fact, we have a treat for you. Our prototyping lab is going to be doing tours and demonstrations. Joanne Gardner would be delighted to welcome you. If you'd like to take a peek at some of the capabilities that we have on site, please drop over just behind the stairs. We also invite you to take a moment to explore how Ottawa tourism is helping to shape Ottawa's global reputation for innovation and excellence, core values that we're bringing to bear together with all of you here at CAV Canada. As we move towards our lunch break, we're going to go out with a video. We do nothing in isolation. Everything is based on collaboration. There are many champions here in our ecosystem across Canada and around the world that help us to achieve our goals. We're going to go out with a video, the first of two, that profiles some of the incredible collaborators that we partner with here at CAV Canada. Thank you to Sam for queuing up that video. Good to see that. 12:55 starts.
Area X.0 is a good example of what is required to ensure innovators have what they need to succeed. Collaboration spaces that include real testing environments enable startups and scale-ups a cost-effective way to carry out the pilot testing needed to go to market and be adopted by industry-leading organizations. Sanjan is also pleased to partner with Invest Ottawa on the Area X.0 project. By providing access to high-speed connectivity and advanced networking expertise, Sanjan supports Area X.0's mission to develop autonomous vehicle solutions and use cases.
What excites me through our collaboration at Area X.0 is the possibility to experiment and try different socially relevant use cases in collaboration with technically brilliant partners, both in academia and with different SMEs. 5G unlocks unique possibilities like never before. For instance, high speeds, ultra low latency, edge and far computing, and so many other use cases. And in order to make full potential of this technology, several players are required to come together. It is also a great way to get our community involved and participating along with us in co-creating in this journey.
CAVCO and Invest Ottawa go back a long way. 12 years ago, Rolls-Royce and Pratt & Whitney collaborated on a jet engine test facility in Thompson. I was there last month and saw this very impressive test site. It has been used extensively to test jet engines for their ability to withstand freezing rain. I am pleased that our collaboration with Invest Ottawa has been a consistent feature along the path.
My best wishes go out to our CAV Canada team.
On behalf of the whole team at Sengen, I'd like to wish everybody an excellent CAV Canada show this year.
I wish you and the organizers all the best for the remainder of this conference.
Thank you very much, everyone. Please enjoy lunch. Take the opportunity to take a peek at our prototyping lab and, of course, network now that we are finally back in person safely. We'll see you back here at 12:55.